Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, October 7th City Council meeting. And at this time, I would welcome you all and ask you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome again. In accordance with LB 898, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber. The order of business for the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on that item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those opposed. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating name, address, and whether you are speaking in favor of or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. And after all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last meetings of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date, nor plan for a future agenda. And I know that since next Monday we will not be meeting, we will have open mic tonight. And Teresa, if you could please call the first item of business.
Yes, we ask those of the general public coming forward to testify to please clearly state your name, spell your name, give your address, and sign in on the sign-in sheet lying on the podium. Testifiers may use either microphone, and there is a sign-in sheet by each microphone. We ask those individuals from city staff who are testifying to please state your name, title, and the department you work for. Our first item of business is our public hearing consent agenda, items 1 through 3.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on any of these items? Seeing none?
All right, if not, we can vote on these items. Items 1A and B were introduced by Shob.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Shob, seconded by Christensen. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Shob?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Items 2A and B were introduced by Ward.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Ward, seconded by McGinnis. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Shob?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then are our public hearing liquor resolutions. Those giving testimony are asked to come forward and raise their right hand for the clerk to administer the oath. After the oath, witnesses shall state their names and addresses. I'll call items 4A and B together. They're the application of Napoli's for a Class I liquor license at 5555 South 48th Street, Suite 5571, and the related manager application of Bazim Shala. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be? Thank you. Just state your name and address.
My name is Basim Shayla. Business address is South 48th Street, 5555, Suite 5571.
Okay.
Wonderful. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about your application.
Excuse me?
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the application before us?
Yes, I have liquor license before in Grand Island
Okay.
for 6 years. I have same location in Grand Island and Hastings. In Hastings, I'm closing right now, and I'm open here 1 month ago.
And is the South 48th Bistro, it's a small restaurant, or tell us about the...
It's a same location. It's a South 48th Bistro.
Okay.
And him leaving from that, I buy lease from him, and I'm open Italian restaurant now.
Oh, say that again?
I buy lease from South 48 Bistro. I buy lease from him. Him have lease like 3.5 years, and I buy from him lease, and I'm open now Italian restaurant in the same location.
Okay, so it's, is it going to be new cuisine or the
Yeah,
same
it's
cuisine?
new. It's new food, new different food. You know, it's Italian food, Italian cuisine right
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Wonderful. Is there anyone else that might have some questions? Benny?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for joining us. So you currently own other locations where you're monopolies in the state of Nebraska, but this will be your first one in Lincoln, correct?
Yeah, in Lincoln is my first.
And when are you opening, or are you already open for business?
In Lincoln?
Yes.
Yes, in South 48th Street. Yeah, I'm open like
Are
1
you,
month ago.
are you serving customers yet?
Yes, for 1 month from September 3rd.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Yeah,
Are you
from
open for
September
business?
3rd, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? Thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you.
All right, next is item 4C, the manager application of Jessica Wilcox for Hopcat at 601 P Street. Do you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
I do.
Thanks, Jessica. Just state your name and address.
Jessica Wilcox, business address 601 P Street.
Okay, thank you for coming down. Tell us a little bit about your application, and are you currently working at Hopcat?
Yeah, I am the assistant general manager there at the moment. We recently underwent a general manager changeover, so that's why I'm applying to get the liquor license in my name. We're a craft beer bar and restaurant in the Haymarket.
That's great. Are there any questions for Ms. Wilcox? Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to testify on this item? Thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
Next is the application of Kincaidor Brewing Company for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 160 feet by 42 feet at the Lincoln Station at 201 North 7th Street on November 16th and the 29th from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Hey, my name is Cody Schmick, CODYSCHMICK. We have been doing this for game days. I did not get these two on when we initially started, so I'm just asking for these last two for the November games. We didn't know exactly what we were going to be doing in November, so but it's working down there, and we'd like to ask for the other two.
So is this outdoors, or
It
is
is.
it? Okay.
Yep.
Great.
So we call it Tailgate by the Train. It's just right down there in that space that Jim Arter owns, and we worked out a deal with him, and it's been a lot of fun for game days. So
Terrific.
Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Schmick?
This is just right outside your back door, or your
Yes, sir.
door, right?
Yep.
And you just fence off an area right there?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I've walked by a couple times in games, and you have live entertainment there also?
Yes, sir.
Is that always the case? I know.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, we do some kind of low-key shows, some acoustic stuff during the day, and then maybe a 3 or 4 piece band at night, depending on the crowd, depending on game time. But
Thank you. Thank you,
bet.
Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? Thank you very much.
I move approval of items 4A through D.
Second.
Introduced by, or moved by Christensen, seconded by Washington. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Next then are public hearing resolutions. Item 5A is approving the issuance of not to exceed $125,400,000 principal amount West Haymarket Joint Public Agency General Obligation Facility Refunding Bonds Taxable Series 2019.
Good afternoon. I'm Brandon Kaufman. I'm the finance director for the city, and also have the pleasure of serving as the treasurer for the West Haymarket Joint Public Agency. So we're currently looking at refunding bonds for the 2011 and 2013 series. Based on the original agreement with the Joint Public Agency between the university and the city, any bonds issued had to be approved by the mayor and the city council. So this is a straight refinancing. We're coming to ask you so that we can save money on the interest for the outstanding bonds. So The total current bonds, the outstanding interest is about 3.8%. So originally the budget amount was about 5. It actually came in at 3.8%. There's two of those bonds. The 2011 has a tick of 4.25%, and the 2013 has a tick of 4.4%. So based on the current market, we believe that we can save money by lowering those interest payments, which will save interest earnings over the course of the JPA bonds. For the 2011 bonds, we have a 5% threshold basis for an advanced refunding. We're currently looking at about 15.4% net present value savings, which is about $15.4 million. And then for the 2013 bonds, same thing, 5% threshold. We're currently, based on the market, 7.31% net present value savings, or 1.9 million savings from a net present value standpoint. So in the end, we're gonna be saving multi-million worth of dollars, and we're gonna be lowering the interest rates for the West Haymarket JPA payments.
Are there any questions for Brandon? How's the occupation tax coming in?
Occupation taxes, we ended the year a little over 3%. So from an annual forecasting, we always base a 2% increase in occupation taxes, so we're fairly conservative. Starting out, we saw increases of 6-7%. That trailed down a little bit, but it went up to 3% this past year. So.
But basically, it's allowing us to keep up with some of the obligations that we have to pay this bond.
Yes, and compared to the original estimates, we're well above. We're about 25% ahead of where we thought we would be at the current time. So occupation taxes are coming in better than we had originally expected.
Terrific. Any other questions? I was going to read some great statistics about the West Haymarket JPA, but I realized that Tammy's on the committee. I didn't know if you wanted to share some of the great stats that they read during.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to pass
Go
it your way.
ahead. Okay. No, I am pleased to do so. And,
Yeah.
And Brandon, you should be doing this, actually. You've done all the work. So, well, this was actually also shared by Dan Marvin and Jennifer Brinkman, who were around for the beginning of the PBA. So thank you, Madam Chair, for passing this down. So just a little bit of history. The project was on time and on budget, no cost overruns, just historically, for those that may be interested in that. I won't go through all of these, but the local tax revenue growth that Brandon already has spoken about, both sales and occupation taxes of at least 2% as of July 31st. Occupation taxes were up 3.68%. We have maintained both state tournaments for both boys and girls basketball and girls volleyball, make PBA their home now. Major concerts, 1.3 million fans, over $81 million in ticket sales. So that's something all of us in Lincoln can be very proud of. Of course, they talked about cleaning up the rail yards initially to make room for PBA many years ago, and Dan Marvin did review the original map of the rail yard, which has changed a lot down in the Haymarket. Oh, Dan is here, so maybe he wants to come up, and he doesn't want to talk anymore about this. And I would just lastly add that I was around with a different hat on in the federal government days during the era bonds, and so it's fun to see it come full circle, and really proud of everything everybody did before my time. So thank you very much.
Terrific. Is there anyone else who would like to testify on this matter?
Hi, my name is Robert Ware. I live at 801 Elevado Avenue, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68504. I just wanted to rise and congratulate the Pinnacle Bank Arena Board. I think this shows just a high degree of initiative and thinking, and not just coming to work, but trying to do the best thing. And I know the city did this with some of its, I believe, wastewater bonds, and it's just great government, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yes, we think the team that did put together this project many years ago. It's been a resounding success and bringing in additional tax revenues to our city, but really enhancing the cultural life of our city as well. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? Let's move on.
All right, we'll go on to our, actually, we can vote on this item.
Okay.
It was introduced by Shob.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Shob, seconded by Christensen. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Shob.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Next then is our public hearing ordinance second reading. We have just one item, amending Chapter 9.24 of the Lincoln Municipal Code by adding a new section numbered 9.24.103 entitled Destruction of Property, Affirmative Defense, to provide for an affirmative defense for people breaking into unattended motor vehicles in order to rescue children or pets.
I have some opening statements for
Certainly.
this ordinance. Every year, hundreds of animals die in cars, according to the American Veterinary Medical Association. And although it is unlikely that an owner would report a heat-related death of their animal and face charges, it provides a challenge in determining the exact amount of weather-related deaths of animals being left in cars. Every year, approximately 38 kids die in cars, according to the Nebraska Safety Council. In addition to traditional hot summer temperatures, this September was the third hottest on record. I introduced this ordinance to help provide Good Samaritans a legal defense from criminal and civil lawsuits as they act in the best interests of children and pets. In my conversations with neighbors, most people believe that this protection already exists in our city and in our state. This protection does exist statewide in 15 other states and multiple municipalities across the nation, and it's time that Lincoln joins them. This ordinance does not restrict anyone's current level of freedoms or restrict anyone's rights. This ordinance does not allow for people to use animals or children as an excuse to break into a car or because they simply believe that an animal is in danger. These Samaritans must follow specific steps that are outlined. A Samaritan has to call 911. A Samaritan has to make reasonable efforts to find the owner. They must use no more force than reasonable to enter the vehicle, and they must remain on the scene until a first responder arrives. This allows protection with accountability. I appreciate the discretion that our local law enforcement utilizes and the willingness to respond quickly to a crisis, but Good Samaritans still need a defense that protects them from a civil lawsuit or potential criminal charges. A temperature inside a vehicle can rise to dangerous temperatures even on cloudy days. Parked cars can trap heat, and for an example, on a 70-degree day, the temperature can raise to 89 degrees within 10 minutes and 104 within 30 minutes. On an 80-degree day, temperatures can reach 99 degrees within 10 minutes. And research shows that even cracking your window does not have an impact on the heat inside of a car. We're really lucky to live in a community where people are willing to do the right thing to protect our children and pets. And this ordinance allows the city to do the right thing and stand by Good Samaritans that act with due diligence in the best interest of a child or an animal. And as one of my favorite quotes say, be the kind of person your dog thinks you are. So that's why I introduced this ordinance, and I'm looking forward to any testimony that might come up.
Thank you for doing so. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to testify on this? Please come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Brad Beam. I live at 3710 Woods Avenue. I'm active in the companion animal rescue community, so I want to thank our Councilmember Bowers for introducing this. I've recently had a chance to meet with 3 council members about making Lincoln a no-kill city and the benefits that come along with that, impacts on economic development, attracting the young, upperly mobile, educated workforce that we need in Lincoln. These kinds of policies that we're looking at today help show that Lincoln has a very favorable perception of their animals. Unfortunately, some cities around the country look at animals as disposable property. And I think this takes us the next step to say, hey, we're going to support our members of our community if they have to step in to help save an animal under certain circumstances like a heat exposure in the car. So, again, we're hoping that this never has to be used, but again, I want to thank the council for considering this and also for proposing this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down to testify. Is there someone else that would like to testify? Thank you.
Thank you again, Council. Jonathan Herms, 5500 Shady Hollow Road. I'd have to be strongly opposed to this particular one. I am a dog owner. I love dogs more than most of my friends. They're kinder and they are happier to see me usually than probably you guys are right now. But since there's not been any filed charges in a case where someone's busted a window, numero uno, that's not a compelling interest issue. There's no child car deaths. The ordinance seeks to address a perception problem, as Mr. Bowers has stated, but the perception problem is that there is not one. Justifying an ordinance when there's not a compelling interest is the perception problem. Mayor Larry and Gaylor Baird spoke about her relationship, particularly with her sister Allison, in her State of the City address. She said, "I followed the rules and she snuck out of the house, but guess who was more fun? We bickered a lot about stupid stuff. I always thought I knew better and constantly tried to tell her how to do things the right way. Our dad jokingly told us, 'Allison, how does it feel to have 3 parents?' I didn't understand then how annoying I must have been, but I totally get it now." She references music as a neutralizer to her sibling rivalry. "How does music neutralize sibling rivalry?" she continues. "We'd put on an album in the turntable and dance and sing along to the soundtracks from Grease and Saturday Night Fever. One of the songs from that album. Listen to the ground, there's movement all around. There's something going down and I can feel it. On the waves of the air, there's dancing out there. If there's something we can share, we can steal it. And that sweet city woman, she moves through the light, controlling my mind and my soul." So understand that there are others just like Mayor Gaylor Baird, and especially crave distance from you all. With that said, not stealing, not following a sweet city woman moving through the night and controlling your mind and soul, because your oath to the Nebraska State Constitution and the United States Constitution to secure to the people you represent their inherent and inalienable rights, among those being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the right to keep and bear arms for security and defense, is one of the oaths that you guys took when you took office. And securing a vehicle, I take my dog to work with me occasionally, and I don't need a do-gooder trying to break out the window, not understanding the length of time I was not there, or the fact that my vehicle is insulated or even over air conditioned prior for the number of minutes that might be unknown. So a revisit to the lessons learned in youth would serve the council better than bickering over issues that do not exist. Allison was always more fun. You may not understand how annoying you are, but I hope you get it now. And I just want to remind you guys, the oath to the Constitution and to secure the rights of property is what you guys are here for. And I don't know of anybody that would not break a window to save a dog or a child if that emergency presented itself. And since no charges have been filed, the ordinance itself is just not a necessary one despite its best intentions.
Thank you very much. Is there someone else that would like to testify on this item?
Hello, my name is Robert Way. My address has always been read into the record. I rise in support of this ordinance. I've heard certain, I think, from a good value place, objections to this ordinance, but what comes back to me is, well, I think the vast majority of people would take the risk of law having to deal with some level of involvement with the law. If you broke a window, there are certain people in our society, people on parole, people who want legal careers, people who want medical careers, who a simple misdemeanor could be the end of their dreams. This law, I think, provides a moment where the best among us, the ones who have the highest aspirations, the one who also in other cases somebody wants to serve in the military and wants that top secret clearance, it's not going to be easy if you get a misdemeanor, even if you did it for a noble reason. I think this is an excellent ordinance. I think the concerns raised by some of my citizens are well considered, but overwhelmed by what we might lose if we don't act. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? Seeing none, let's go on.
All
right. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Could we get a staff question from City Attorney?
Certainly.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Jeffrey Patrick, City Attorney.
Thank you, Jeff, for coming forward. I have just a couple of small questions. The ordinance is written very well, but I was wondering if someone doesn't follow one of these, does 4 out of 5 or 1 out of 3, do we still have the option to charge somebody for doing something if they still well-intentioned but don't follow the steps that are outlined?
Well, and to be clear, this is an affirmative defense. Doesn't mean that the officer can't cite them or that the city attorney can't charge them. It just means if there's a trial, they can raise these affirmative defenses. And it lists out what they are. So I would say that they're listed in the ordinance because we think those are factors we want citizens who are acting to defend pets or children to consider before they take what is a fairly significant action of breaking someone else's property, breaking a window. We want them to consider that's best practices. Having said that, if there was a situation where someone was cited, broke out a window, was cited, was charged, they could raise any of their actions they did take as part of the affirmative defense. So I would say that if they did 4 but not all 5 of those, could they still raise it as an affirmative defense? They could, but the fact that they didn't do all 5 might well enter into whether the court considered that to be adequate affirmative defense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going to do this badly, but I've heard the phrase inoculate them against prosecution. This doesn't completely do that, does it?
It doesn't inoculate them against prosecution. The court will recognize, though, when they come in and say, I was acting in good faith, I did what I should have done as a good citizen, then I would hope that the court would recognize that you've got this legal framework that they followed in order to do what they did, which doesn't exist now. And so that's really the big step forward, is it lays out this legal framework, this rationale. Should I do this? Well, first I should look around for the owner, and then I should call 911, and if they're going to be really delayed in coming here, then I need to consider. So it gives you that rational framework and a legal framework on taking what is a fairly drastic action when you're considering really damaging somebody else's property. So the only clarification I would make would be this is also a legal defense to a criminal misdemeanor violation of the city code. It is not a defense in a civil case because we don't have a say over that. Although I'm sure that a civil court would also consider the context and the situation as well.
If I may, Madam Chair. So I'm in the parking lot at Walmart. It's 115 in the shade. James Michael's dog's in the car, and I can't find him.
And it's a very cute dog.
It is. It's an adorable, yeah. Basset hound, floppy ears. I break the windows, and he comes running out about the time I hit the glass, and so I probably couldn't have done it. If I'm charged and found guilty, what are the penalties associated with something like this?
Well, if you're charged, it would be a matter of criminal mischief, essentially damaging somebody else's property. If you're charged under city ordinance, if it's not something that's specified in the code, just like what we talked about
a few weeks ago,
a few weeks ago, it is up to a $500 fine, 6 months in jail, or a combination thereof. But again, when you look at the context, if you were acting for a good purpose, then I think the court would take that into consideration, as would the officer that investigated. I mean, there are a number of different things that happen along the way. Officer investigates. Do they look at the situation and say, listen, you were doing it for a good purpose, I'm not going to write you a ticket. Maybe they write you a ticket because they didn't understand fully the situation. It goes to the city attorney's office. You, as a defendant in this case, would have an opportunity to come in and talk to one of our prosecutors and say, listen, it was 110 degrees at Walmart, had no idea where the owner was at. That's why I did that. Prosecutor could very well say, listen, I understand I'm not filing this. But this, if it passes today, would mean next week, if you go to court, you could tell your story and say, this is an affirmative defense. So every step of the way, the context, the fact that it was so hot that the dog was in danger will help you out. And if I'm an officer on the street or I'm a prosecutor looking at, do I file this ticket or not, the fact that it's an affirmative defense is something I weigh and say, no, there's an affirmative defense here. I'm not even going to cite him, or I'm not going to file this ticket. So it does also not just influence the court as an affirmative defense, but I think also as an influence every step of the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there anyone else that wanted to testify on this item? The gentleman has already had an opportunity
think
to
that's
speak.
kind of-
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
And once staff questions are asked, then that means public hearing is concluded.
All right, let's go on to the next item then.
All right, that concludes our public hearing. We can move into the voting session. Item 7A is a real estate sales agreement with Jose Diaz de Leon Garza and Luisa Sanchez Centillion for the sale of city-owned property generally located at 820 South 27th Street, introduced by Shob.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Shob, seconded by Christensen. Any discussion? Yes, Richard.
Yeah, I had some questions on this early on with Urban Director Dan Marvin, and I believe he answered them fully and to my satisfaction. So I would be voting in favor of this.
Okay, is there any other discussion up here on this item? Okay, please call the roll.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers? Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Shob.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. 7B is a real estate sales agreement with the Lower Platte South NRD for the sale of city-owned property generally located at 1440 Adams Street, introduced by Shob.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Shob, seconded by Christensen. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Shob.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Resolutions on first reading are items 8A through E. Our ordinances on first reading are items 9A through I.
And I would like to make a motion.
Point of order. You need to relinquish the chair to make
Oh,
motions.
Chair recognizes Rabel.
thank you. I would like to make a motion that we delay item 9A. I appreciate Councilman McGinnis's efforts to introduce this. I know that we've talked about this issue quite a bit on 14th and Warlick Road, Old Cheney, the improvements for a number of years, probably going on 20 years. But I also am concerned about the timing of this request to delay. We are set to go out for bids starting on Friday, October 18th. They will have 6 to 8 weeks to respond to the bids. I know, sorry, is there
You need a
second.
second at this point.
Do I hear a second? Hearing?
Second the motion.
Okay, seconded by Benny.
Thank you, Benny.
Show.
Sorry. So as I was saying, we've had discussions on this issue. It's been voted in our CIP for the last number of issues, and I'm concerned because we've already had pre-bid meetings with our contractors interested in this project. As it's my understanding that the drawings that the contractors were presented were 75% completed. They will have 6 to 8 weeks to provide us bids on a project that has been on the books for quite some time. And I respectfully ask for a delay on this until after we receive the bids, and we'll have a better idea and understanding of the cost of this project. And since it is in my district, and we've heard from many, many constituents over a number of years, I would like to see this delayed until after we get an opportunity to study the bids. I would ask Thomas Schaefer to come up if you don't mind. I have just a couple of questions for Thomas.
Chair recognize.
Yes.
Yes.
Point of order, any staff discussion is appropriate at the public hearing, not at this point. The public needs to be present and hear this discussion, and that's why traditionally the city council handles these issues by first having the public hearing and then voting on a delay if we're going to do that with additional public hearing. So my point of order is this is appropriate not now, but after the hearing the next meeting. So.
And the, Jeff?
Okay, come on up.
I'm sorry.
Jeff?
You're the chair.
Just for clarification, I know you're in a rhythm, Councilwoman Raybold, but the gavel has been passed. So, Chair McGinnis, Acting Chair McGinnis, this is a rule of order that you will rule on. I would tell you, and I would also refer to Councilman Christensen, who's been on the council for a while, this rarely comes up, that there is a reason for taking some staff questions on a point of order on scheduling. I know nothing in the rules that says you cannot do that, but I think it would be a ruling of the chair as to whether it would be appropriate in this circumstance.
Okay.
That's helpful to you.
And I'll rule you out of order and allow Jane, or allow Councilwoman Raybold, if she would like to have questions for staff at this point or not.
Yes, I just invite Thomas to come up and just share with us a brief history of this issue of 14th and Warlick Road and tell us where it's been, where it's going, where we're at right now, and just touch on a few of the safety issues that we are seeing at this intersection, and personally why I think it's important that we continue to move forward on it.
All right, Thomas Schaefer with the Lincoln Transportation Utilities Department. I'm Project Delivery Division Manager. Nothing has been brief with this project. It started in 2000, been through several studies. It's been through several different things. We're at the point, though, right now of having almost completed the plans, wanting to advertise those. We're in active negotiations with Right Away. We are have worked with you private utility companies, and LES is out there doing work right now as we speak. That's where we're at.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Any
much.
other discussions?
Benny?
Benny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was waiting for more questions. I should push the button too, shouldn't I? Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a little out of sequence for me and a little different than we normally do. And I appreciate the fact that this has been advertised, and I've got lots of phone calls. I'm sure you all have had lots of phone calls too. And I look forward to the public hearing where we have the public come in and they can weigh in. They're calling me now and weighing in. I fear that delaying this delays the public hearing for that purpose. I think we would have an opportunity to delay the vote after that public hearing. So I'd like to, yeah, I'm concerned.
Right, and you could, instead of just delay the vote, you can delay with additional public hearing before the vote. We've done that many times in the past.
Okay.
Look that direction.
Yes.
Council Chair, I must admit, this is the first time I've sat on City Council, and so this is all just a smidge confusing about proposals, delays on this issue. And because it's a construction project where the bids are supposed to go out in about a week and a half, I'm a little concerned that not only would this project have the delay of the project will have unintended consequences to whether or not companies are going to bid, or we are asking them to prepare all of their bids, so put a lot of time and energy into preparing the bid, only to have the project at that point delayed. So I think there are consequences in both directions for the delay. I have heard lots of comments from folks, and so I would really like to see or have a public hearing so that we could have those comments brought forward. I understand perhaps making a vote to delay the vote later, but I would like to hear the public's input on this process at the earliest convenience.
I have a question for staff or Tom. I guess my concern is I too want public hearing, but I want public hearing after we've had an opportunity to go forward with the bid and get input and feedback from the general contractors on where this project is going to be landing. I certainly want to see the project go forward, but I guess I'm concerned, are we still going to send out the bid if we hold public hearing, or how does that affect the process?
Tom Cassidy, I'm the interim director of Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. My understanding is that Councilman McGinnis's ordinance would be up for public hearing on October 21st. We had planned on putting the bids out on October 18th. I can't in good faith put those bids out and ask contractors to spend the time and the effort and the money to continue to prepare their bids when we have no idea whether we will actually be letting those bids or accepting bids if they come in within our budget. I just don't think that would be fair to those contractors to do that, so I think we'll have no choice other than to delay the letting of the bids regardless of the outcome of the issue before you. Okay. Any other questions? So we have a motion and a second to delay. No other questions?
One clarification, is the motion to delay it no date certain?
No date certain, but it would be most likely introduced again after the bid process has wrapped up. That was the intent.
So place it on pending, no date certain.
Thank you. Yes, that's correct.
Great.
No other questions? Please call the roll.
Ward?
No.
Washington? This is on the delay.
This is not 9I, but the delay.
Delay of 9I.
Delay of 9I.
No.
Bowers?
No.
Christensen?
No.
McGinnis?
No.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
No.
Motion lost, 1-6.
Okay, passing the gavel back.
Okay, thank you. All right.
All right. Our pending list, date certain, item 10A. Our regular pending list are items 11A through C. Anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not planned to appear on a future agenda may do so at this time, since it is an open microphone session.
Is there anyone out in the audience that would like to address the city council at this time? On an item that's not on the agenda or on a future agenda?
Jonathan Herms, in 5500 Shady Hollow Road. It's not on the agenda to completely ban the 14th and Warlick project. I've worked in that area, and a lot of the folks there have had their property values just simply by the perception.
That is, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to really out of order. That is,
to ban it.
this is on the agenda.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that anybody was talking about banning it completely.
He's talking about a delay in the ordinance. He's talking about an outright ban of the
Outright
project.
ban, correct.
But it is on the
But it is on the agenda, the 14th and
delay
Warlick
The delay
project.
is-
I don't know that anybody's mentioned banning it completely. Every
But-
time you've
And
brought up
Madam
the
Chair,
project.
May I? My recommendation to you on this then is to
Come
back
on
the
October 21st for the public
Yes.
hearing. Where we will
Right.
encompass the entire project, talking about the pros and the cons, and not just the delay. This is an
Not a delay,
opportunity.
an outright ban.
Yes. So my
You'll have an opportunity on October 21st.
My recommendation is you contact the council members individually or send an email to councilpacket@lincoln.edu.gov.
Without talking about delaying or the project itself, just back to the property values alone in that area.
Sir, I'm sorry, that is going to be a discussion for October 21st.
Property values?
Property values in the city or property values that pertain to 14th and Warlick Road?
Property values in the city.
In the whole
That
city?
quadrant, the southwest quadrant of the city has had people moving out of there as a result of the news articles related to the project itself. And so regardless of whether you move forward or not, it's hurting the property values down in that area.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on open mic?
Seeing none, I move adjournment.
Second.
Second? Please call the roll.
Ward?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes,
Schob?
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
we are adjourned. Thank you all.